In this brief recorded lecture, I just want to frame up some of the key issues that we see in the literature and in the history of our field as it relates to integrating practice and practitioners into the curriculum, as well as providing a little bit of a framework for our own thinking about it as we go into our session. And so I'm going to start with a little bit of a history. So our field was really born from practice. Many of the early programs, starting as early as the 1930s, but certainly over the following 50 years, were actually started in practice settings, many of them in hospitals or with hospital administrators. And so the faculty were largely practitioners. That's certainly the case with the program that I'm associated with at Ohio State. But as the field has evolved, the field of healthcare, the field of healthcare administration, so have academic programs. So we know healthcare is increasingly complex. When the original programs just started, it was actually, for most of us, the field of hospital administration, right? And it was a very sort of narrow field. Now, the quote, hospitals are complex health systems. And there's the academic field around that has completely grown. There's so much more research, there's focus on healthcare, there's policy. There are people in different disciplines looking at healthcare. And so that's really led towards a swing in university settings towards having much more of an academic focus. And we all continue to value the practitioner perspective, but there is a little bit of a tension between how much of our educational curricula, or maybe even our courses, should be sort of grounded in academia versus grounded in practice. And this is actually a tension that we see in the business field as well. And so let me talk a little bit about this tension, because it's at the heart of many of the readings that we assigned for today. So when we look at it, this is sort of when they're in balance, academia and practice, and we recognize that we need both in health administration education or healthcare management education. On the academic side, we can't ignore how the field has evolved, right? So in our programs, we have disciplinary rigor that's applied to complex problems, economics, policy scholars, management scholars, that help us understand and explain some of the dynamics, or even predict some of the dynamics in the decisions that are made in the complex healthcare system. As well, we help our students understand sort of theory that for framing up problems, as well as the evidence and evidence-based practices that we hope and expect that they will take out into the field. That being said, our colleagues in practice bring something else to the table. They often have their fingers on the pulse of what are the issues that are emerging? What are the new models? What is the field talking about? How is strategy evolving? How is the market evolving in real time? How are policies being implemented? What are the unintended consequences? And those are things that scholars often don't have sort of that real time as it's happening insight. As well as we really heavily rely on practice. We know that hands-on learning is critical for adults, and we rely on our practitioner colleagues to provide meaningful learning experiences for our students, whether it's in internships, whether it's through projects. And so there are a lot of ways that practice enhances and augments what we do in our academic setting. And so from my perspective, and this is true even reading the materials, our goal should really be to think about having a balance between sort of the true academic core and the practitioner-based insight. And so some of the questions that we might think about are, in what ways, or what is the best or most appropriate role for practitioners in practice? And what are the ways that we can effectively incorporate both of these things to advance educational goals? We all have stories of sort of how we've not done it well, the running joke, if you will, among academics can be, you know, nobody just wants a practitioner to come in and tell war stories. And that's absolutely true, because it may not effectively support students' educational goals. But we do realize that we want to harness the power of our practitioner colleagues' experience. And so we have a role, I think, in helping and supporting practitioners to be effective educators, even if it's just for a guest lecture, and mentors. One of the articles that we offered, I think it's an alternate reading, provides a really nice continuum for thinking about where sort of the practitioner and educator experience can make a difference. And so I encourage you to think about this for your own courses or for your own curricula. And so this graphic here has different levels of academic engagement. From left to right, we have sort of the least level, which is like a guest lecturer, to on the far right is a tenure track and faculty member who is probably to be that super engaged in research and scholarship, maybe even a disciplinary expert. And in between that, we have things like practice instructor, adjunct faculty, executive in residence. And so then the other, on the y-axis, we have on the left-hand side is sort of reflects the degree of market expertise or practice know-how. And then the axis on the right-hand side is theoretical immersion, or really the depth of theoretical and empirical knowledge about what's going on in the field. And what we can see, we see these plotted out vis-a-vis the various roles. And so you can see that the market experience is truly, you see high levels of market experience being kind of present in all of the roles until you get to tenure track faculty. And even with that, we have some market experience, but that often can fade over time as people get distance from practice. And then in mirror is then sort of the level of theoretical immersion is lowest with people who are maybe practitioner guest lecturers, and then increases as you get to the tenure track faculty member. And so that's worth considering as we think about how best to incorporate practitioners into our classrooms and really think about what they bring to the table versus what do our full-time, more theory-based or research-based faculty bring to the table, and find the right balance for our students. I look forward to seeing you all in a couple of weeks. Thanks a lot.